Hey friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping in today. I'm back with a new layout for the Paige Evans design team, and I'm going to be using Paige's Bungalow Lane collection today. And I'm going to be using a pattern paper for a background. This is paper number 17. I love that denim blue color with the white stripes. And then I was in the mood to use some bold patterns and bright colors in some way on this background. I just wasn't quite sure yet, but these are the papers that I've got. And what I thought I might do, I wasn't in the mood to use a cut file or punches or anything like that, so I just started tearing. And so that's where we're going to begin. This paper here that's red with the pink flowers, that is paper number 6. And I just tore a big chunk of it. I'm going to use my edge distresser there to distress the edges and start to layer. You know, I'm not sure if I want to do horizontal or if I want to do vertical. We're just kind of ripping, tearing, layering, and seeing what happens. This paper here is paper number 21, and it looks like a striped paper. The stripes are actually different colors, and they have some interest to them, so they're not straight lines. But yeah, I want this to look torn and weathered and layered, but I want, you know, all of the different papers that I'm going to use here to be visible around each one, or each of the other papers, but I want that red and pink to be sort of the main paper. This yellow paper is paper number 11. I'm going to do the same thing here, and this is like a really deep golden yellow. And since most of it on the right side was covered, I kind of just tore it so you could see a little bit on the bottom. Then I went for this green paper. This is paper number 24. Do the same thing with a little bit of green at the bottom. And you know, this is a good idea to do if you want to use a lot of papers, you want to use a lot of colors, but you don't really have a specific idea on how to use them. Just do something like this. This kind of helped solidify my background design, and it worked out pretty easily. I'm just gluing all of these layers together. I'm using Scotch tacky glue in that bottle that I've used for years now. That's why it's looks like it's been through war. But yeah, I'm just going to glue all these together, and then I can move it all around as one big chunk and decide if I want to do horizontal or vertical or what I want to do with this. But you know, this is going to take up a nice big chunk of the background. So I think I'm going to go horizontal, although I like the way it looks vertical too, but I'm going to go horizontal. Now I am going to do some mixed media, and if you're going to use white gesso on a dark background, you got to move fast, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to try to smudge this gesso down, but it's going to dry fast. So I'm going to take my fingers and get to smudging. Now I've sped this up. My hands aren't really going that fast. I wish. But I want to create a little bit of a cloudy look because I am going to add some shimmers to this. I want a little bit of like a cloudy effect above the layers of paper and then down below it. I'm using a 2-inch silicone brush there to initially start to spread it around, but to get those soft faded edges, I feel like my hands are the best. But it's going to be very visible because this background is dark. You know, when I use a white background, I tend to use clear gesso because it's already white. But in this case, I don't want to use clear gesso because it's clear, and I want to create this white hazy effect and to prep this paper for some mixed media because this is just regular old pattern paper. You know, it's not really meant for a lot of liquids. But so I kept working on that, and it looks like a big white hazy mess right now. It's going to totally change when I start to add things on top of it. So I'm going to start with some blues, and I'm going to mix 2 different shimmers here. I'm mixing Vibes Deep Blue Sea with the Shimmers Original called When Skies Are Gray. I'm just adding a little bit of water to it. I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to turn the paper and just try to cover some area. I'm just trying to get some variation, even though I'm using kind of a tone on tone here with the blue. I just want this to look a little bit like the blue background started to water and drip color if that makes any sense. And I can do all of this color blending and letting the colors kind of run and move around the paper because of the gesso. Now, if I was to do this straight up on the cardstock, or not the cardstock, but the pattern paper, it would just soak right through right off the bat. So the gesso kind of provides this barrier, and since I'm using the white gesso, it also gives me a little bit of white space. I thought I would kind of add in a little bit of a yellow color to make a little bit of a green tone, since I do have some green in the pattern paper layers, and this is Vibes Mustard Seed, and I'm just going to mix that in with some of this blue. And yeah, I'm not looking for something really severe as far as the mixed media goes. I want this to look kind of just light, like there's just hints of it on the background. And it always looks like I'm doing too much in the beginning, but you know, I'm going to bring the layers back on top of it. So you're just going to be able to see it kind of below the layers like that, and then whatever I do on the top of it. So yeah, and you know, every layout I make, I always say this, but it's an experiment, you know. I'm just kind of playing around and seeing what looks good. And since I did use the gesso, I can always dab it up, or, you know, add water and dilute it to where it's softer and you can't even really see it. So you have room for mistakes. You have room for changing your mind if you're using gesso like this. At the top there, I thought I would go with more of the pinkish red color, and that is a Vibes called Pop Art Pink. And it's got a little bit of a gold powder shimmer mixed in that one. This here is not shimmers. This is the Jen Hadfield Gold Glitter Spray. I thought I would mix in some of that. I always have that on my desk ready to go because I use it all the time. But I'm just going to mix in some of that, blend in a little bit of it, see how it looks, and just keep working on it, you know. Like I said, it's an experiment, and we'll see how it goes. And the paper is going to warp a little bit because, like I said earlier, this is just pattern paper, you know, and when I start to add anything to it, it's going to warp a little bit. So in the end, I'm going to have to flatten it out once everything is dry. And you know, when you're using mixed media, you just kind of have to expect a little bit of paper warping. It used to really bother me, and it's still, you know, I wish it wouldn't do it, but it's going to happen, and you just have to find ways to flatten it out if it's something that really bothers you. I've just found that once everything is dry, if I lay really heavy paper pads on top of it, or just anything heavy, just let it sit overnight. It does help tremendously. And I've also heard that if you run it through your laminator, it will flatten it out. I've never tried that, but you know, that's something that you could try. I'm going to add some white splatters. This is just white acrylic paint. I definitely love the look of white splatters on a dark background like this. And since the other stuff is still kind of wet, it's going to kind of blend in and look kind of marbly. I'm going to show you here up close in just a second once I'm done here. And the effect of this is just really neat. I think it instantly starts to blend with whatever is wet, and it just kind of creates this fun marbled effect in certain areas, and it just kind of lightens things up and just kind of makes it look almost like a galaxy effect in some of the areas. And I think this is really pretty, and it's really fun to just mix and match your products to see what you can come up with. I love how that looks. So I'm going to bring the layers back, see how this looks. I'm really liking this effect. I think it looks pretty cool. I have a picture of my husband and my oldest daughter from the other day. So it's a pretty recent picture, and I just printed it pretty large, and I'm just going to use the one photo there in black and white because I felt like I've got so many colors going on that black and white would really stand out against all of these colors. I'm going to come in with some more green on top of the blue here. So we're definitely not done with the background. This is a shimmer spray. It's a colorings called Keep Palm, and I'm just going to kind of start to work that in. I just felt like with the green paper, and since the background is blue, so I've already got a lot of blue, I thought that I would add a little bit more green. And it definitely looks different once the photo is on top. So I want to make sure what I'm doing now is going to be visible below the photo. So I'm going to add a little bit more of that blue, the deep blue sea, and just keep working on it, you know. When I first started out with this background, it was more kind of random. I just wanted to get the color going and let it run and blend and spread. And then Now at this point in the mixed media journey, now that I know where everything is going to go, everything that I add now is going to definitely be more intentional. I'm going to try to keep it to a specific area so it's visible behind everything and around everything. And I'm really liking how this is looking. I know that that's where I want the layers to go, so I'm going to go ahead and get those glued down. And so the base design of this layout is finished. Even though it's just a bunch of torn papers layered together, I think it still makes a statement, and I'm still able to see all those colors and patterns. So I'm going to go from there. So at this point, the background is finished. Spoiler alert, it isn't, but for now it is. I'm going to go ahead and start to layer up some things behind the picture. In the beginning, I just wanted to layer some tissue paper just to give it a little bit of a subtle border. I do wind up adding some things behind it eventually. I am going to pop the photo up with some adhesive foam. I almost always do that. Because I love dimension. I love the way it looks when things are slightly popped off the page. I think it just helps to bring everything together. It adds that extra something to the page, I think. Now I've got all of the embellishments that goes with this collection. I've got the foam, the phrase foam stickers there that are kind of like thickers. I'm not sure what I want to do with the title, where I want it to go, what kind of embellishments I'm going to add. I have no idea. So I just sort through everything. There's a whole pack of the floral die cuts, so I went with that. I'm going to layer in a couple of those. And I went back and forth on what color to add where, because I didn't want too much pink, because I've already got a lot of pink, already got a lot of blue. So what am I going to put where? And where is it not going to look too busy? You know, that's the point I'm at now. I did decide to add some layers behind the photo, and I went with this paper. I'm not sure what paper number it is, but I got it from the 12 by 12 paper pad, and it's mostly red. And I wanted something to separate the edge of the photo between those the pink flower and the yellow flower, and then that red and pink background. And I wanted something that came across as a solid, so that's why I went with that red. And then I'm going to add a smidgen of that white paper with the stripes again. And I think that kind of helps, even though it's very subtle, it's just barely peeking out from behind the edges of the photo there. I think it helps it a lot. It helps it to separate it a little bit from the background, even though it's pretty much the same color. I almost wish I would have went with blue. I think I should have used blue, but you know what? I didn't. That's okay. I think in the end it works. I'm going to use that blue flower over on the right. And I'm going to cut it in half because you can't even see half of it. So why waste it? So cut it in half. And then I'm going to start to layer in some thread. And I'm going to use blue. I have the same blue thread or as close enough as the background color. So I'm going to add that there behind that big leaf. And from this point on, I feel like I've got most of the big embellishments done, because in this collection there are a ton of really large embellishments. And I'm looking for things that are small at this point, because I've got a big leaf and a couple of big flowers there, and my photo's pretty big. And that's like the main thing. When I'm embellishing, I always want to try to start embellishing, you know, around the photo and then kind of fan out from that. And then the further I get away from the photo, the smaller the embellishments get, usually for me anyway. So I'm going to get all that glued down. I glued the photo a little crooked. I want it to be crooked. And then I'm just going to start to continue to play with everything else. 8-page sticker book stickers. There's some clear stickers. There's some cardstock stickers. There's some gold foiled stickers. I wanted to use this blue flower, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And that's what that looks like. So now I can kind of use it as a die cut. And I'm going to add that right on top of the photo there as a little bit of a layer to bring in some more of that blue. This little scalloped sticker says right at home. And we were at home. We were just hanging out on the couch. And this is a whole sheet of words and phrases. This says my heart. I'm going to use that up at the top. And again, like I said, I'm looking for small things. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do in the bottom half. That's my title's got to go down there somewhere. I wanted to use this sticker that says, "You make me smile," but I could not, for the life of me, figure out where I wanted it to go. So it's just going to go to the side for now. And then I wanted a contrasting color of thread down here at the bottom, so I went with yellow. Since I've got yellow kind of in the top half, I wanted to bring that yellow down to the bottom half, and I'm going to kind of wedge that underneath the bottom of the photo there. And I keep going back to these foam stickers. I'm going to look through the cardstock sticker sheet. Apparently I'm going back to thread. Where am I going to put this thread? Oh, over to the right. And I wasn't sure if this even mattered at this point because the pattern paper behind that is pretty busy. And I thought, can you even see this thread? Does it even matter? Because sometimes it can make an area look too busy. But I'm going to fix that later. I've got more flowers, smaller flowers. I'm going to use one of those flowers that kind of looks like a button. That is a part of the epoxy stickers. There's a whole little pack of epoxy stickers, and then this little label here says remember this, and it is green around the edges. And so I thought that would be pretty to kind of bring some green down to the bottom. And I want to try to layer a couple things. So I want to use the remember this piece, and I want to use the you make me smile piece for the title. But at the same time, I'm trying not to cover up all of the blue and green mixed media that I did at the bottom. So this is where the background is going to continue to grow because I felt like I was covering too much of it up. So all I'm going to do is kind of continue what I did in the very beginning, and that's just use my fingers to smudge a little bit more of the white gesso. I'm just going to come down further and then come back in with the green and the blue. And this time I'm going to use my finger just to smudge it around a little bit. Again, that's the keep palm that I'm mixing with the deep blue sea, because I just wanted this to be a little bit visible behind everything that I'm going to add down here, you know, because sometimes you spend all this time on the background, and then when you come in with your photo or your embellishments or your paper, you wind up covering up everything you just did. And that's just, I hate when that happens for me. So I have to just make more of the mixed media area because I want that to be visible, you know. Sometimes I only want a little bit of it to show. Sometimes I want a lot of it to show. But I'm going to continue on with the yellow thread also and bring that down a little bit further and then start to glue down this little cluster. And I'm going to use a red and pink flower die cut as well. But I'm definitely wanting to use the You Make Me Smile. It was the perfect colors to match. Just wasn't sure where it was going to go. And I do find some more smaller flowers. I'm having to cut into this paper here. That's from the 12 by 12 paper pad. I just found a small yellow flower because, like I said before, there's a really big embellishments with the flowers, and I wanted some smaller ones. So I looked high and low on papers and other stickers and other embellishments to just cut out some smaller ones. I'm add a little yellow one kind of underneath that little scallop sticker underneath the photo there. And I've got, you know, kind of all the colors represented down there. The red, the pinks, the blues, and the yellows, and the greens. And then I wanted to use these beautiful cardboard chipboard. They're thickers. And they have this really fun pattern on them. It looks like a sweater. I just couldn't figure out the colors. So I had to kind of play with it and decide, you know, I'm just going to use the word love, but I couldn't figure out the order of the colors. So I finally decided on that. And I wanted, you know, like I said, multiple colors, and I like how that looks. I like how this cluster turned out. And you can still see the mixed media kind of through the letters and underneath it and above it. I'm adding some adhesive foam to some of the little flowers down there. And then I'm definitely adding glue behind these thickers because I use the gesso and things tend to pop right off of gesso. So always add glue. And then, yeah, I'm liking how that's looking. So I feel like I got multiple colors up at the top. I've got multiple colors down at the bottom. Make sure that's straight. And then my dilemma was, I feel like the top of the layout is just kind of boring. So I went through a phase of, you know, taking a break and then coming back and thinking, what am I going to add to the top? Do I need to add anything to the top, or does it look okay the way it is? Anyway, this is what I've got so far. I did take that remember this sticker off and I stitched through it. I just felt like it needed a little bit of something because it was just so much white around the words. But you can kind of see what I got going on here. You can kind of see the warping of the paper a little bit, but like I said, it's okay, it happens. I do come back in with the gesso again, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes if you want your photo to stand out a little bit more against a busy pattern, just use some gesso. I'm telling you, gesso will solve lots of problems. Just smudge a little bit of it kind of around the edges of the photo, and all this is going to do is kind of fade out some of that pattern, and it's going to kind of almost make your photo look like it's glowing above all of that busyness behind it. And this just, like I said, it's going to fade out some of the pattern, and you can still see it. You can still see exactly what it looks like. It just kind of adds this little filter over it, and it just sort of enhances the photo even more, I think. And again, don't be afraid to get your fingers dirty. Just, your fingers can do a load of wonderful things when it comes to scrapbooking. Sometimes you can have all the tools in the world and your hands will work best, I think. So, but you definitely want to use a brush if you're going to add splatters. Haven't tried that with my hands yet. Don't want to. But adding more white, just because I felt like I needed some more crisp white splatters. So I'm going for that again, and it's just more of the white acrylic paint. And I'm liking how that's looking. Gonna just fix that up. And then I decided to add a couple of the remnants of the big flowers that I had cut, just peeking out of the top there. I'm going to use the rest of that pink one. And that's where it comes in handy to cut your big die cuts in half, if you can only see half of it, because then you can use the other half somewhere else. So that's all I'm going to do to the top, just a couple flowers peeking through, and then I'm going to write my journaling down at the bottom. And I'm going to use a white gel pen because it shows up wonderfully on top of a dark background. And I believe that is it. Finally, we're done. We're done. The background is done. But anyway, that's the final layout. And I like how this turned out. I think it was fun to do. It was fun to just rip and tear all those papers to get started. And then, you know, searching for all the embellishments is always a good time. And of course, making the background. That's always one of my favorite things. But I took a lot of close-ups here so you can see all the details of everything. Let me know if you have any questions. If you have not got your hands on this collection, highly recommend it. It's perfect for fall. There are lots of leaves and fall colors and things, but there are also lots of things that clearly this isn't a fall layout. You can make any type of layout with any theme. It will work, I think. Even a rainbow, because there are rainbow colors. That's what I made for my last layout, was a rainbow. So check out my previous video if you haven't, if you wanted to see how I did that. But I'll link all of this this collection down below, and where you can find shimmers if you want to get your hands on some of those. And I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.